Okay, people, here's a question for you. Let's say you worked at a studio that had incredibly well-known and well-diverse IPs attached to it. Your job was to be the director of a big game that essentially was widely praised all across of game media and so many different outlets for being outstanding, brave, bold, and you touched on a bunch of different topics that you personally thought were incredibly valid, as well as so poignant and necessary that you did everything you could to shoehorn those things into the game, regardless if it actually fit the motif of the game or not. And then, let's say that the game itself was so widely and positively received that you actually then were told by the studio, or your passion is to constantly make RPGs, that you would then be in the studio to then, I don't know, make brand new IPs and RPGs under the studio that you are working with, especially if you state that you are so highly proud of working with your team, with the people involved, and getting engaged in all this stuff and things like that with the different fans behind one associated game that you worked on, that you just can't wait to make more. Would you then leave that company? Or better yet, I guess the more preferred question is, what exactly would possibly be a better opportunity if you in fact were leaving to go make better games? If, let's just say this for namesake, if in fact you were going, hey, I want to make more RPGs, why would you leave the company that you are currently working for if everything that you did was so positive, popular, and widely praised? Wouldn't you just take that passion, work within the company that you're in, that is currently allowing you to do whatever you want, and then do whatever you want at said company? That's the question, because that's the bullshit that basically popped up at Bioware. Because Bioware recently had a quarters meeting, or essentially a moment in which they have to explain, or EA had this moment where they had to explain where the money went, and so to shareholders and shit like that. And then essentially their stock plummeted immensely, and it needed to. And one of the things that they pointed out in this little meeting and whatnot is that they talked about how dissatisfied they were at the sales of Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, they also talked about how FIFA performed poorly as well, but essentially, hey, games, AAA games across the board are fucking up in general. But I'm covering Bioware right now. So what I want to get into is the fact that essentially recently, before this little thing was announced, or actually I believe it was after, I'm not exactly sure, but before the little quarterly meeting, the director of Dragon Age Veilguard quit Bioware. Now, the director, for context, is trans. Now, in normal structure for anything, this wouldn't be a factor because it wouldn't fucking matter. But they purposefully say, and they use that as a forefront behind every little fucking thing that they did when it came towards doing stuff for Dragon Age. So essentially, that part of their identity is the most important part of their identity. Not their love for RPGs, not the fact that they are immersed in storytelling or gameplay or anything like that. No, it's just the fact that they were trans. For whatever fucking reason that matters. It shouldn't, but to them it does, so I guess that means that it's supposed to be important. And they are now quitting Bioware to go and make more RPGs. See, it doesn't, the Kool-Aid ain't stirring correctly, because obviously this is bullshit. They definitely got fired, right? But EA cannot and will not sit there and be one of the first gaming companies to be like, oh, we definitely had to fire this person because they're such a colossal fuck up. No, because then they would have been met with nothing but substantial backlash. So instead, definitely they gave that person a ridiculous settlement. this dude basically got shut the fuck up and get out of here money, because that's the only possible thing that makes any sense. And then considering the track record that Bioware has had with EA, it was one of the stupidest and most colossal failures that you could possibly think of, because of how bad everything transpired. Now, in the little meeting, essentially, they talked about the fact that yes, Dragon Age Veilguard sold actually quite a bit of units. Like it sold really well. And this essentially is the same issue that Assassin's Creed has as well, where yes, it does sell a bunch of copies, but the amount of copies that it sells does not make up the amount of money that was spent or wasted on the game. The fluff cannot be fixed, essentially. So you have, you got to think about it. It's with video games, I say that it's worse than movies, considering that with movies, you kind of genuinely know that half of the budget, if you take the budget and essentially you double that, that's how much is going to go into promotion. For video games, I feel that it's a lot worse. One, they don't generally or typically say what the overall budget is, let alone what it is that they spend on promotion, because it doesn't function the same as movies, let alone do they go by, ticket sales and whatnot. Most of the time with video games, you're kind of get a general concept of just the units sold rather than how much money they actually made. Because again, you're not talking about games that go on sale, the discounts, DLC, the other content that they add later on, if they're games of service, and how much people spend on cosmetics and shit like that. The different transactions that go through video games, it encumbers differently than with movies. So you gotta understand, for them to publicly state that essentially Dragon Age Veilguard made a certain amount of units, I think it sold particularly in a certain number of millions, and they were happy with that, but they projected that it would spend that they would actually have made triple that amount. So there's the rub, right? They essentially knew from the jump that this game was going to be a big deal, a big seller, because it's based on an IP that they know was going to garner a bunch of money. It has a huge fan backing, and they were told by everyone and their mama that if you make a Dragon Age game, you are going to make money. And so again, you have to remember, EA, dealing with Bioware, has fucked up not once, not twice, but 3 times if you include Dragon Age Veilguard, because you have Anthem, you have Mass Effect Andromeda, and now Dragon Age Veilguard. So, actually, I did that. I believe it's Mass Effect Andromeda, then Anthem, then or was it all right? I don't remember. Anyway, all three of those things are failures, right? And so with Dragon Age Veilguard, yes, it sold, but it still is a failure because it did not do what they projected, meaning that most likely, similar to what Sony did with Concord, you put more money into this than was necessary and you got no kind of return. And with that being the case, you now have a huge, massive problem. And again, we're not even talking about the fact that for majority of Dragon Age Veilguard stuff, when it came out, it was almost immediately put on sale on when it went on Steam and shit like that. So those are all the projections of a bad game. So shit like that is kind of those giant warning signs that gamers see a mile away that stop them from actually buying a game. And for whatever reason, you have a company that entire job is to have their pulse on the zeitgeist of people buying and anticipating to want to play their games, and they constantly fucked up massively 3 fucking times. They had a game that was supposed to be a game of service. That was Anthem. Total shit show. You had a game that essentially was based off of a big time IP made in a lackluster, stupid ass EA way. Mass Effect Andromeda. And then you did the same shit with Dragon Age, which essentially you could argue is, if not as popular, is more popular than Mass Effect, considering that it didn't have the bad taste in the mouth of Andromeda to ruin the legacy, to which if you would have done it correctly, it would have garnered some type of wealth, especially considering the huge amount of people that were interested in playing it when it was fucking announced back in E3 2017 or some shit like that. So You gotta understand, this was a long time coming up some bullshit, and just to have this weird ass parameter of this just dumbass highlight right now within games media of everyone trying to act as if this dude isn't getting fired, or essentially is like, oh, moving on to bigger and better things. What the fuck could you possibly be moving on to? You're a failure. You're a fuck up. You decided to inject your politics into a game that essentially was a bad game, that in all parameters. It had bad gameplay, it had bad characters, it had a bad story, had a bad content, it had a bad taste. It left a bad taste in your mouth for being something that's supposed to be a sequel to a game that has already built its legacy, content, as well as characters, themes, and archetypes on a certain pedestal. And then you did everything you could to fucking shut that down for no reason other than either identity politics or you thinking you knew what was better. And that is so unbelievably fucking stupid. And again, essentially I would say this is a fair warning. Even though this person is gone, do not think that Mass Effect is going to be any better, because these people don't learn any fucking lesson. They never do. It won't stop until the company itself is destroyed, and you either have essentially a goddamn Cinderella story like fucking Okami 2, where it's like, hey, the people behind this game got back together to redo the magic that they did within that game, and now you're getting Okami 2, or Ninja Gaiden 2 that was announced recently because Team Ninja finally got their shit together, and it was like, hey, they might tackle Ninja Gaiden again. Who knows if it'll be good? The last one's fucking sucked, but hey, whatever. Team Ninja's been doing actually pretty well with some of their games. They let DOA die. That's gonna be a fucking dating sim game with tickle mechanics. Oh, you poor fighting game bastard. But I digress. But essentially, you have this weird construct of seeing failure after failure after failure, and the AAA gaming industry just double downs on it. Like right now, you're gonna have, what is it, in March? You're gonna get the fucking Assassin's Creed Shadows game, and for the most part, you got a lot of gaming media people saying and fluffing up and thinking that the game is gonna be good, and it, for all intents and purposes, it might sell well, but the game is going to be poorly received considering the amount of money that they spent on the game and the actual return that they'll get back from it. Ubisoft might lie, but right now Ubisoft is almost about to go fucking tits up. So you take that for however you want. The fact remains is that this is a shit show, and I'm upset at what it is that's happening, because it's happening to games that I actually like. Like, even for right now, it's like, I will never fucking play Veilguard. I won't. And if you was to give an honest opinion on what to do with the Dragon Age brand, you would essentially fucking scorch earth Veilguard's existence entirely. Fuck whatever anyone might say or the criticism that might come with it. But if you make an actual decent game, you fuck all whatever happened within the Veilguard concept. You follow the story from the books and shit like that. You get the original art team and whatnot to come back, which you could definitely do. EA got stupid money to do that. Lord knows they've been burning all these billions for years now. Might as well just pay the people who want to get paid to actually do the shit you want them to do. And then you can profit from that. Right now, they're supposedly having everyone work on another Mass Effect, which I would hate to see happen, because these people who worked on Dragon Age couldn't even fucking get the little tapestry, the world tapestry thing right. So how the fuck could you possibly think that they could get something as complex as Mass Effect to follow along with a brand new Mass Effect? I mean, you had in the Legacy edition, which is the stuff I got playing in the background right now, you have in there the fucking checkboxes to actually pinpoint and showcase exactly how the story is or what you chose for what in order for the game to play out a certain way. You have any idea how complex that shit is going to be? And considering the fact that the current Bioware is not the previous Bioware, they're going to fuck that up royally. I mean, fuck, that's far more complex than Dragon Age, and Dragon Age has a world tapestry aspect to it where they specifically made a website to only pinpoint the important aspects of the story so that story beats can travel over to the game where you ain't got to worry about the minuscule shit. But in Mass Effect, you actually have to worry about the minuscule shit. That's how complex it was. Fuck, if you think that these people who made Andromeda, a dry ass, boring, stupid concept of a game, to actually, and then most of those people aren't even there anymore. You just got a bunch of fresh new faces who obviously, I don't know why my voice pitched right there, who obviously don't even care enough to look back into the old games to give a fuck about what it is that people take from there as a positive and what they hated from that. I'm pretty sure you're probably gonna get something that's gonna have just as generic as an ending as the third Mass Effect game, which again is a highly hated ending, no matter which way you slice it, but whatever. Fuck, I would prefer if they just did another Andromeda, where you don't necessarily have to make this involve the story of Shepard, but instead just have a story involving the world and the aliens of Mass Effect dealing within that concept. Now, it doesn't even have to be Mass Effect. It could actually be a brand new association of aliens, people, characters, likability, story concepts, and whatnot. Oh, wait, that's a game that's coming out already by the people who made Mass Effect. Oh, no. Oh no. Oh. This is fucking stupid. Is so goddamn stupid. I've seen more people talk about the EA meeting or whatever than the fact that this person essentially got fired, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that they quit. They got fired. And it's like, it's disgusting considering just how games media is, how people should be looking at this, and then the lessons that these people need to learn. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League got shut down. Why? Fucking bad game. Fucking bad game. Dragon Age Veilguard underperformed. Why? Fucking bad game. You have Assassin's Creed Shadows essentially on the chopping block of being something that probably won't do that well. Why? Because they fucked up royally. They fucked up on an amalgam of things with Assassin's Creed Shadow. I was actually going to do a video about that, but then I heard the news about the director of Veilguard, and I was like, what? So you gotta understand, it's fucking annoying, because it's like, why is it that it's so hard for these people whose job it is to entertain people to entertain people? It's genuinely your job. At this point in time, why don't you sit down with actual YouTubers who criticize your shit and get their take? Find out what it is that they hate so much, or they don't like just so bad about your games. Talk to these people and get a very good understanding on exactly what it is you need to fix, because whatever you're currently doing is not helping. And I'm not saying to just be like, oh, you're just going with the haters and they just can't stand you because you exist. You know, they don't like the word bio. So no, I'm talking about people who critically and ritualistically have played your games, know your story, know your characters, know your concept, know everything. They love what you did, they seen what you're doing, and they can't stand it. And you should sit down and talk with these people, because they're not going to kiss your ass. They're not going to fluff you up. They're not going to fluff you up. They're not going to fluff your ego and nothing like that to make EA think that, oh no, Bioware can't do no wrong. They're not going to be like all of the stupid gaming media, because these motherfuckers don't know they don't even know how to ask a question correctly. They're just constantly peddling the fact, and they're like, well, I got to play Assassin's Creed for 4 hours. Am I special? No, bitch, because no one even fucking cares right now. Until the game comes out, no one cares, because gaming media is shit. So that's not even a big thing. But you sold your soul to say this shit, and no one cares. And so you're hemorrhaging money. You're hemorrhaging money to exist, but you only exist to talk about video games, but no one cares about the fact that you're talking about video games. Do you not understand how this cycle is fucked? This cycle is so fucked because you just have so many people sitting in the highest position who have no fucking idea what the hell they're doing. So I'm glad They were fired. I'm glad that dude was fired, because they should have been. Immediately when they came into the room and it was like, I want to sit there and inject a whole bunch of different identity politics within this game, because I saw some of it within Inquisition. A lot of people didn't like those things within Inquisition because it felt weird and out of place in that, but I'm going to double down on it and then go even harder. Why? Because Inquisition did well and it was popular. Well, there's a huge amalgam of reasons as to why Inquisition actually did well. I don't think it's just the identity politics shit. Well, that's the only thing I want to focus on. And so because that's what I want to focus on, that's what I'm going to promote. Well, we've literally seen throughout the years before we even released this game, people don't like the identity politics within video games, and in doubling down on it is going to be bad. Well, you know what? Baldur's Gate 3 really was they shouldn't have done what they did. They made people have high expectations for an RPG. Nuh-uh, that's what an RPG is. It's a role-playing game. People can make their characters, have them look however they want them to look, and then do whatever they want to do within the game. And it's turn-based. Yeah. So even still, that makes it even worse of a factor that you essentially would lose to that. But you did what you did. You made your bed. And instead of lying it, you got fucking fired. And now people are gonna have to deal with the aftermath of this. Because who knows how many people are left at Bioware that even fucking care about the story, the characters, the concept, or anything like that. And it's not as if this person is leaving and they're taking all of the bad eggs with them. No, it's like they're fired. It's like, well, who's up the pipeline that essentially was left in the company that already was a fuck up just like them, that agreed with every idea that they had, that essentially thought the exact same way as they did. But now that this person is gone, that does not mean that everything is clean. You've literally seen this happen within Disney and the MCU. Remember that what is it, Victoria Alonso? What's that her name? The chick they fired from the MCU that basically kept paying all the visual effects people shit and then just making bad decision after bad decision. And it's like, well, they got rid of her. And it's like, right, but she was Kevin Feige's right-hand man. He let her get to that position, and he was cool with all the decisions she made. That motherfucker's still running Marvel. What does that tell you? Nothing. And then when's the last time you seen a good Marvel movie? Exactly. Deadpool and Wolverine. I was like, yeah, but that's not something that was built off of the MCU. That's something that's built off of the Deadpool movies and the X-Men movies. So those things have nothing to do with the MCU. Again, like what? Or essentially everything under Fox. And then they spent their entire movie just making fun of all those things, whether they were good or whether they were bad. That was it. It's a shit show, man. This shit it's annoying to see this stuff happen, because again, I really just want to play a good game. I wouldn't mind making a video me gushing or talking about, man, the Dragon Age game made me want to buy a fucking PS5. I haven't even bought a PS5 yet because I have no reason to. The only game I could possibly tell you that I'm actually excited to play, I believe it's called Black Sand. Black Sand is from the people who made the Black Desert game. That's the only game that I'm actually excited to play. Oh, and the Phantom Blade Zero. Phantom Blade Zero, hands down, definitely I want to play. I don't even care for the Black Myth Wukong game, but the Phantom Blade Zero game, that was my cup of tea as soon as the first time it got announced at like the very last E3. So yeah, that's genuinely it. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, hell, again, even the PS5 price has went down. So there's no point in buying a Pro. The PS5 price went down, and they about to announce a fucking Switch 2. I'm good with the patience. I'm straight with the patience, because this shit is just, it's just getting out of hand. It's just getting way, way out of fucking hand. So yeah, glad, ding dong, the bitch is dead, but it's not gonna fix Bioware. And I would rather Bioware just kind of go away and you just have the remnants of Bioware make actually good and competent games. Hopefully, but for the most part, this shit is just sad. It's just really, really fucking sad. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. Which is why I came on the internet to bitch. But whatever. This has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Danieltheflame, and as always, good people. I hope you had fun.